This is your Chargers linebacker, Deion Henley, and you're tuning in with Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome to another edition of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. If this is your first time tuning in the show, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Dan Wolkenstein, I know that we are just over 1 week away until free agents frenzy begins for the 2026 NFL season.
Crazy.
But damn it, if you weren't in front of your television screen for the last 4 days to watch the NFL Combine, that's going to get you in the mood for April 23rd and this year's NFL Draft. Lots to get into as far as what has taken place over the last 4 days. Obviously, let's put a precursor out there so that everybody who's watching understands. No, Dan and I have not watched every single prospect that went out there and performed. So, by God, don't be coming at us and judging us for certain things that we haven't seen. But I'll tell you what, Dan, there are definitely some players that piqued your interest to say, okay, if you did watch them, you need to go back and reevaluate. Or if you didn't see him prior to the combine, to say, oh yeah, I need to put on that guy's tape and go see what it's all about. Lots of winners, stock up guys over the last 4 days. Specifically, we'll get into some of the obvious as it relates to certain positions that the Chargers are going to be targeting on the offense and defensive side of the ball. But Dan Wolkenstein, I know that you were able to catch a little bit of it. And thank the heavens, you have finally started to dip your toes in the NFL draft pool over this last week or so. Quick thoughts. This could be a record one-word answer.
Quick thoughts. Excited, but man, I feel so behind. And peek behind the curtain, I'm going to preface this with this is the latest I have ever gotten to do draft prep. My own fault and that of whatever. But normally I am gone through all of my kind of pre-NFL Combine lists and all that jazz. I'll be honest. Between the two kids, between being freaking crazy sick, between my Traeger going up in smoke today, there's a lot of F and F stuff going on over here where I'm just trying to hold on. So I'm going to have to lean on Jake Hefner for his prowess and his expertise. We saw a lot of his tweets as we were going through the weekend. Day 1, day 2, day 3. We saw lots of positions. This Chargers team has quite a bit of holes to fill, both in free agency and the draft. But there were some stock up and stock down guys, and dare I say some sleepers that I think we're going to be hearing about from a Jake Hefner. But so Jake, for me, I would say excited, but a little embarrassed that I haven't got a chance to kind of dig into this really. Literally, today is the first day that I've actually felt somewhat okay. And I go out to try and use a smoker today, and the auger is clogged and
basically just sums up your entire week, essentially.
Yep, that's it. So with that, I will hand the reins to you, Jake. A lot of this will be me asking you how you feel and the great friends here in the chat, how they feel. But yeah, I'm excited because from what I've heard so far, this is not necessarily a very top-heavy draft class, but it is a very deep draft class. And for the position groups that this Chargers team needs, it sits pretty well to do things the right way. Jake, how are you feeling about how this combine went down? Is it what you expected? What were some of the biggest stories for you right out of the gate?
I think I actually just was more impressed of the overall groups in general. I mean, they talked about it over the weekend, Dan. Daniel Jeremiah highlighted it so many times. Every position group, with the exception of the quarterbacks, were collectively the fastest groups at each position since 2003.
Okay, so last I saw that every defensive position group was the fastest, and then it added on to that
every offensive group, running back, wide receiver, tight ends, offensive line, every position except quarterback were the best and fastest times of every one of those positions, for the exception of quarterback. It was actually insane to see, which is curious considering the fact that we know that previous combines, we've seen faster 40s from some of the defensive linemen. we've seen faster 40s out of some of the offensive linemen and these guys moving into the trenches. But it's collectively as a group to say they're beating times from guys from last year. And it's nuts just to see how many guys were there collectively moving at those type of speeds. It was kind of a bummer for certain guys that I did have earmarked, specifically in the linebacker group, that didn't end up running. I know they did some of the on-field drills, and more so for maybe one of the bigger ones of the interior defensive line group, that he didn't get a chance to do as many on-field drills that we would have wanted to see him look. But still, you got to be excited about a potential at 22 for this certain individual that we'll be talking about here in a second. But Dan, I was thoroughly impressed. Maybe my badge of honor moment, and this is a big one for me. I got my wife to watch about 75% of the combine this week. And that's saying something.
That's a win.
And I got to say, I was engaged with it. She was even giving out her own opinions. I'm trying to remember who. I even wrote it down in my spreadsheet that I had. Which player was it? Because it was the interior defensive line. It was on the first day. That's right. It was Tyreek Sapp. When Tyreek Sapp was out there doing drills, my wife said he is thick with 2 C's. He is thick with 2 C's. She was really engaged in it. She was giving her own opinions to say, like, oh yeah, like he's fast. Oh yeah, he looks like he's got a good footwork. And again, mind you, my wife does not have like the biggest, as far as football minds go, but she loved watching this do the drills. I say she was more engaged in watching the combine outside of curling than watching the Olympics. Maybe it was just a timing issue, because when we would wake up, the events would be done, and then you have to wait till 10 o'clock for them to come on again. So maybe it was by default, but I was happy about it.
As you should be. Jake, lots to discuss here. Super chat comes in from CJ80685. Trenches, Sadiq, or Thieneman. Yeah?
See, I actually would have butchered it. As many times as I've heard it, if you've been watching this show for long enough, I will try to come up with the nickname of the player or the easiest way that I could say a player's name without butchering the real name.
Thieneman,
so that I don't embarrass myself. It's crazy. If my wife is actually really good at doing this, because there was a name, I think it was yesterday when the wide receivers are going through. Or no, I'm sorry, maybe it was the DBs. And there was one name that I was not even going to try to attempt to pronounce. And I said, give that a shot. And she just, without hesitation, she just says it.
Rolled.
And then I look at it and I'm like, yeah, that's probably how it's pronounced. Just like that. Just like, it probably looks like it's Greek. And I'm like, what? What the hell is this?
You got yourself a good one. I love it. All right. So, Jake, maybe for the super chat, Trenches, Sadiq, or Thieneman at 22. I saw Sadiq raise some eyebrows.
Wow.
And for those who don't know, tight end, beast, comes out and just goes ballistic, setting records at the combine. That got a lot of people who previously, Daniel Jeremiah had Kenyon Sadiq mocked to the Chargers at 22 in his second mock draft. People were a little like, I don't like it, myself included. And then you see that. So for, I guess, this question, which one of those would you do?
Sadiq the Freak and Eli Stowers, it felt like they were like trading blows with each other with the drills, because you see what Sadiq goes up there, does an 11-1 broad and then a 43.5 inch, 43.5 inch vert. And then Stowers comes right back over the top with an 11-3 and a 45. And you're like, oh my God, these guys haven't even ran yet. Like, this is going to be great to watch. And they both ran great times, but there was just a huge gap between a 4.39 and a 4.51. Between
4.39 for a tight end is
4.39 for Kenyon Sadiq. Wild. And still, even for Stowers, running a 4.51 was great. Again, the Sadiq pick for DJ to come out there and say, I understand his reasonings on paper of why he's saying that. And it probably doesn't help from the standpoint, because I know that all of us in the consensus, and they've talked about it as far as Big Vega out of Penn State being the number one mocked player to the Chargers for obvious reasons, because the Chargers need so much offensive line help. But I don't think that he's going to be making it down to 22. Not after today, not after the rest of the pre-draft process, not after what you see from the rest of the teams that need offensive line help in this draft. I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. So you're going to have to switch gears. Is it a tight end? I still think it's a tough sell for me. You got to tell me who's off the board
it's a tough
at
sell
that point to even consider it.
It's a tough sell at 22 for me.
But the wet dream idea of putting Arondé Gadsden and Kenyon Sadiq in the same offense is pretty damn enticing. I'll give you that much.
Yep. Peter says, don't get too enamored with the 40 times. Good tight ends can be had later. Guard, interior defensive line, or edge in round one. Okay, so Jake, let's get into it. So there were 4 days total. We'll kind of go through this day by day. So day one was all about the interior, as we just discussed, edge and linebackers. And interior kind of started this thing off with a bang. Jake, let's give us a quick kind of recap on who were some of the biggest winners in your eyes, or who were some of the people that maybe you thought were best fit for this team, given what you saw.
Talk about kind of winning the day without really having to do too much. That's Caleb Banks. I think when you saw what he came in at measurement-wise and started going through the drills, coming in there with a 32-inch vert for a guy the size of Caleb Banks is just ridiculous for what he was able to do. And again, he wasn't able to finish the drills on the day, but what you have seen from him going all the way back to Senior Bowl week, and we've heard reports as far as, Trevor Sikkema talk about it, and seeing Jim Harbaugh's face when Caleb Banks was out there doing drills and the smile that was put on his face. We know that the Chargers are going to reload in the trenches, whether it's offense, defense, and they're going to do that early. Caleb Banks is a realistic possibility for them at 22, 100%. So you had to feel pretty good about, at least in a limited version of what you saw. And we'll see much more of him, and he'll complete the rest of his workouts for his pro day. But Dan, some of the other guys that I thought really won the day for them is Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma. I got a chance to review him the week before the combine. And the first thing that you see out of him immediately is his motor. And holy shit, he just has one that is not comparable to other players as far as their motor and getting upfield. If you go to the Ole Miss game for him, and you see his chase down of Trinidad Chambliss on a play is just crazy. Relentless pursuit from him. And then what does he do? He comes out and he runs a 4.82 40. Yes, he's lighter. 293 pounds, but a 4.82 40. Led a lot of defensive tackles in the vertical jump and some other drill categories. But I thought he had a phenomenal day. And unfortunately, it's probably going to help his draft stock a lot more. So whenever you're thinking about prioritizing certain positions for this draft, keep an eye out for Grayson Halton, because Grayson Halton paired right next to Tyir Tart would be pretty nasty. I would love to see that. Dan, another one. I have actually not gotten a chance to watch DeMonte Capehart out of Clemson, but I thought he had another fantastic day as well. Again, you're talking about a guy who's 6'5", 313 pounds, ran a 4.85 40, 33.5-inch vertical. He looked really, really smooth in the movement drills that they had out there on the field. So that is another one to keep in mind. If I'm going through some of the other interior defensive linemen here, let me just bear with me.
I know Peter Woods went crazy.
So Peter Woods didn't end up doing much of the. I know he didn't end up running the 40. I know he did a couple other drills.
I mean, the dude's 300 plus. I'm not really worried about his 40 side.
I thought Nadeem Tucker, who people have talked about from Western Michigan, I thought he had a good day as well. Probably one of the bigger surprises for me as far as being up on him as a draft prospect. That's Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. I didn't think that he had certain abilities like that, the way that he looked, what you see on film. And it's one of those situations where you say, like, oh, damn, let me go back. Let me review this, because if this is the type of juice that he has and he's moving this good, I'm sure he's going to get a bump in his stock as well. I was going through some of my other ones here. Bear with me, Dan. We were just talking about the defensive line. Oh, yes. And Malachi Lawrence. You know that the Chargers are, especially after what we've heard from Daniel Popper recently, we'll see what the Odafe Oweh and Khalil Mack situation possibly looks like.
That's a lot of money.
To free agency. Yes, we're talking about a lot of money. There was talks that potentially the Chargers could be letting both of them walk at free agency. As not to say that I disagree what they're going to do with their money in place of that, because the rumor is that they are going to make a run at Tyler Linderbaum, and they are going to put a lot of stock and money in their offensive line. Maybe you just would have wished that they would have done it a year earlier. I still think that you have to do everything that you can to bring back Odafe Oweh. But regardless, whether he's back or not, you need another edge rusher in this class. And whether that's TJ Parker, who had a good day out of Clemson, or Malachi Lawrence, the edge out of UCF. Again, Dan, a 4.5, 240 from him, 10'10" broad jump, a 40-inch vertical, and this is all at 253 pounds. Really good production during his time at UCF. So he could probably be an option for you come day 2, if anything. But that was some of the biggest takeaways from the interior defensive line and edge class. If there's anybody else in the chat that saw some players that they felt that they were high on, let's talk about it. Put it in the chat. We'll do our best. Again, Dan and I have not watched anyone. Or Dan and I have not watched everyone, so we'll try our best to go through this if we can.
Now, question for you. Like, I know people got on my case when I said, I don't know if it's smart business to put that much money in your edge group. I got a lot of pushback from that. And now you're seeing rumors that might kind of be how the team is feeling too, with not wanting to spend that much money. We'll see. There's a lot of position groups that you can say this Chargers fan base would, put all their eggs in for round 1. Some would say interior offensive line, go big or go home. Center, guard, doesn't matter. Some people will look at the interior defensive line and say, we got to get more there, right? Some people will see the Keenan Allen move away, and maybe you can go for something there. Edge position, right? Like, there's a bunch of position groups that you would like to see in round 1. But interior defensive line or edge, what was talked about during the combine, what was the depth of those two position groups in terms of, if you don't do day 1, how far does it go before you're not getting really a starter?
I mean, I think that you could actually get good starters from both positions. Maybe your cutoff is day 3. I still think it's deep enough to where you can get, yes. And especially if we're looking at this roster, you already have one of the biggest pieces taken care of in Tyler Tartan, signing him to an extension. That was huge. We don't know what's going to happen with Delshawn Hand. You drafted Jamari Caldwell last year, which was a good piece. He's definitely on the come up this year, but you still need more help in those trenches. And I think if I remember the number correctly, this would be year 12 if Joe Ortiz drafts a interior defensive line before round 5. This is going all the way back to his time in Baltimore. He has taken an interior defensive line, or been part of an organization that has taken an interior defensive line every single year, at least by the end of round 4. So I would think that it's not going to be any different this year. Just depends on where you're going to prioritize it. So if indeed these rumors that we heard about the Chargers putting their money in free agency to the offensive line, hey, they may fully say, let's just stack the defense with young talent coming out of this draft. Because, yeah, it's deep. It may not be top heavy, but it's deep for sure.
Peter, with all due respect, it is not that much money. OA would have like a $13 million cap hit? I'm not sure. But I can tell you right now, like, if you're looking at this Chargers roster, let's say they extend OA or extend Thule, that's probably maybe would that be 25 million-ish, right? So let's say 25 million for that. I think Khalil Mack, if he comes back, probably 18 or so. So that's 25, 35, 42. And then Thule, if he gets an extension, at least 25. I mean, that's a lot of money, dude. That's a ton of money. Now, how much of that would be dead cap for this year? I don't know. I don't know what that cap hit would be. I do think that Odafe Owe and Thule would be a great core to have moving forward. It's a great young nucleus that you can get both on contracts. But as much as it sounds good, that's a lot of money. And if you can go get a bona fide superstar at edge in round one and make 6 million, 5 million, 4 million versus 25, I mean, it's just smart business, right? But we'll see. Linebackers. I think this is a sneaky position group, Jake, that a lot of people don't necessarily put as much stock into as maybe I would.
Position. It is a sneaky position.
How'd that group look?
Oh, better than what I thought it was going to look like. I'll tell you that much. Holy shit. I was really impressed by the linebacker group. And obviously with Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese basically leading the way between the two of them, it just felt like they were dominating every single drill that was out there and just making it look easy.
Styles was named on day one and day two. You
heard. It was crazy to watch what they were doing out there. I was a little bummed that I didn't get a chance to see some of my favorite linebackers that I felt were good fit for the Chargers to go out there and run the 40s or do a handful of the positional drills. Daniel, like this one from your alma mater, Arizona State's Kayshawn Elliott. I really like him as far as a downhill thumper. If it comes to the point where the Chargers end up moving away from Denzel Perryman, you really need someone who's just a stud against the run. I think that he fits that really, really well. Another one that's in that same type of mold, I think, even though he's a little bit more undersized, is Torian York out of Texas A&M. Again, same type of attacking the run type of style from him when you watch his film. Again, 5'11", 226. Again, undersized by what that is, but Denzel Perryman himself is undersized by linebacker standards as well. Damn, Jacob Rodriguez, holy shit, did he make himself some money over the weekend? Because the biggest questions about him were his athletic abilities. Even when you go and you watch that Texas Tech tape from him, though, he's just downhill attacking the football. He is all around it every chance that he gets. And yet you watch him go through the combine drills, and I think he just put any type of reservations that anybody had about him completely to rest. I thought he blew it out of the water. He looked great out there. He definitely elevated his draft stock. If we're kind of putting linebackers in general on the priority list of where that would be for the Chargers, we'll probably have to wait till free agency to see how that one ends up playing out, because we don't know whether or not Denzel Perryman is going to end up coming back. Junior Colson is still a question mark as it stands right now. You'd love to have Delshon Phillips back in that room. Obviously, Marlo Wax is an ascending player in that group as well. But this linebacker group, Dan, as we were talking about, is sneaky good. Sneaky good. So it would not surprise me whatsoever if the Chargers end up making a move at this position. Jay Galladay out of Cincinnati, that was another one that looked great out there. Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh, I thought had a really good day. Jack Kelly out of BYU was another one that I thought kind of fit that mold for what the Chargers needed. And Bryce Bonicher out of Oregon, super athletic for a guy that weighs 233 pounds and just an animal. Whether or not, again, where you're going to see this prioritized, it's not as clear cut to say as it would be for interior defensive line or the edge position for this one in particular. But I would not be surprised whatsoever if the Chargers end up making a move at the linebacker spot in this draft, because maybe you have to get ahead of the sticks with the question marks about Junior Colson and whether or not you're bringing Denzel Perryman back on a contract. You may need to reload at that position. And hey, this would be a great year to do it in the draft.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that you can cut it a few different ways, right? Like you can cut it by, well, let's just go through each of the position groups that the Chargers would probably need, and let's go through each of those days and which ones would look good in Chargers uniforms. We're kind of doing the latter where we're looking at each day, and we'll go through those positions as they pertain to the Chargers. Cornerback, safety, tight ends on day 2. Now, I don't necessarily know how important corner is or how much of a priority corner would be in terms of like, would it be a day 1 pick, day 2, day 3? I would guess probably day 2 or 3. I don't think it's day 1 pick for the Chargers. They have so many corners, and with this Chris O'Leary, Jesse Minter style defense, like their corners are usually playing pretty good with Steve Klingscale. Safety, that room looks pretty stacked too right now. Tight ends, that could be the one, right? I think right now the only tight end the Chargers have on the roster is a Rodney Gadsden, technically. So among this group, I think tight end was probably the one that had the most interest. We talked about Sadiq a ton. Do you think this Chargers group would look for a pass catching tight end, more of a balanced, or more of like the blocking type, or all of the above?
We have to remind ourselves that Greg Roman is not the offensive coordinator anymore for this team. So what does that mean for them in terms of the NFL draft? People have talked about possible free agent options for them at tight end to fill that void that you currently have. And I absolutely think that that's a possibility for them. I was disappointed to hear that Oscar Delp out of Georgia was not going to be participating, because I thought that he was going to have some really impressive on-field drills when you see what he does during his time at Georgia. RJ Maryland, Dan, I thought it was one specifically that outside of obviously Stovers and Sadiq, I thought he was another one that had a really good day. 6'4", 236, ran a 4.51, had a 10-foot 2 broad jump, very athletic, used very, very well at Maryland. And then if you're looking for someone, Dan, who's more of kind of that both option, if you will, but still kind of like blocks his ass off, how about Sam Rush out of Stanford? 6'6", 267, Dan. Big boy at tight end. Jeez. Ran a 4.7, 10.6 in the broad, 38.5 in the vert. And he's arguably the best blocking tight end in the class. Plays very physical, but he's got some receiving chops when you watch what he's put on film. And he's actually got some pretty decent yak for a guy who is that big. So I really was impressed with what I saw from the tight end group. I didn't expect it to look that athletically good. I know that when you compare it to, let's say, last year's tight end class, and when you go back and you watch the film on that, these guys are definitely making me go back and recheck myself on certain things. Again, haven't really dug into the tight end group that much, but there were a lot of guys I think that turned heads, especially for me to say, shit, like I've got to go back and do a little bit more homework at that position.
Did you see any from a corner perspective? The one thing I could totally see this Chargers team looking for, though, would be kind of that like island big body corner. Whether if I'm looking for that on day 2, give me like 6'2", 210. Who jumps out around that?
How about Dekario Davis out of Washington, 6'3", 194, ran a 4.41. You know what my phrase always is when it comes to size B, Dan, because I really root for the little guy. And while the Chargers may not necessarily need a slot corner in this class, there are so many of them. Chandler Rivers out of Duke, I'm just a big fan of, and I personally thought that he had a great day. I really like Jadon Kennedy out of Oregon. I don't know what round he's going to go in, but I think he fits perfectly into what Steve Klingscale does from a zone concept. And I think he's feisty. I'm trying to remember the exact QBR. I think it was around 39.4 that he allowed for this season. No, but he didn't see many throws. I think it was about 37 throws that he saw his way, and he only allowed maybe 1/3 of them to be complete. So I really liked, he didn't get a chance to end up running the 40, which I was obviously bummed out, or he didn't get a chance to run the 40, which I was bummed out about. But I really liked how he looked in on-field drills. I think that he's a sleeper to see his stock kind of rise up. Probably doesn't get beyond or get above day 3. But trying to find the ones, Dan, that you're talking about in the mold that you're seeking in that bigger body. And again, this all is kind of predicated on whether or not Benjamin St. Juice ends up returning in free agency.
Right.
Chris Johnson just had himself a hell of a day. San Diego State, again, Dan, not 6'2", but 6 foot, 193, and he ran a 4.4. He arguably looked like the best corner that was out there. Definitely impressed. And I think that when you look at his tape, and especially if you're looking at like that 4.4 time, you're thinking to yourself initially, it's like, whoa, I didn't think that he was that fast. So that was impressive for him to come out there with that. Trying to see if I can find anybody else for you, Dan, that you're looking for in that type of a mold.
While I do that, I'll look up for a couple questions here.
Like Davison Igbinosun didn't have the best testing day, but he's definitely good in coverage. And if you're looking for if you're looking for that type of mock-up, Dan, again, 6'2", 34-inch vertical.
There's a kid that I saw. I think he had a longer name. It may have been like a 3 moniker name. I think he was like 6'2", 6'3". Yeah, I'm thinking safety. But there was some kid that looked great that I saw. I'll have to go back and look. Question in the chat here. How do you feel about R. Mason Thomas at edge?
I thought I was going to see more out of R. Mason Thomas in the field drills, to be perfectly honest. And if you're trying to like put what his draft stock probably is, I know some people have considered him, one of the top end edge rushers. He probably, especially after this weekend, I think with some of the other guys that really elevated their stock, I think he solidifies himself probably as an early day 2 pick, because I do think that the edge position is going to be plucked early, especially in round 1 with some of the good options that you have. But I actually thought I was going to see more of R. Mason Thomas given the production that he had in college. So again, I don't think it absolutely torpedoes it. I think that would be a good option for the Chargers. Don't get me wrong, if they end up moving on from Odafe Oweh. But I expected to see a little bit more. Again, it doesn't take me out of the running for R. Mason Thomas, especially when you look at his college production, which was good. But again, I would have expected to see a little bit more.
I'm trying to see if I could find the name of the kid that I was thinking of. Give myself 10 more seconds, and if I can't,
D'Angelo Pons, Dan, the valedictorian of the Size Be Damned class of 2026.
I don't know this.
You'd love to have this kid on your team. Obviously, he's going to be gone, and the priorities for the Chargers are not corner early. It definitely has to be the trenches. But man, was it fun watching him just going through and blowing the doors off some of these drills and making it look effortless and easy.
I think it was the kid out of Toledo, the McNeil Warren kid.
Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Yes, yeah. Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Mm-hmm.
I think that's who I was thinking of. I liked him. I think he's a safety, but couldn't he be like a kind of a hybrid?
I think he's more of a safety. I think he's more of a safety. Andre Fuller out of Toledo. There's your corner that you're looking for. Again, smaller size type of guy. There's a lot of smaller size that look like they're nickel corners, but it's not a bad problem to have, honestly, because even though it's smaller size, some of these guys have just no fear at playing at the outside. You obviously have to go through things as far as to say, like, okay, can you stack up against them? And some of these guys have. Chandler Rivers is one of them, to say that he's not afraid to battle bigger bodied wide receivers. But is that going to be successful at the next level? You never know. But I do think in general, the Chargers are going to add another cornerback in this draft. I think Steve Klinkscale loves to get another young body to work around. And again, what you've seen his work with Cam Hart and Tarheeb Still over the last few years to get another body in there in this zone coverage defense. I think you're going to see another cornerback position selected by the Chargers, regardless of the round. Probably not before day 3 because you got more priorities that you need to handle first. But even still, I think it's a deep enough cornerback class for when you look at the roster. And Dan likes to remind me, and he reminded me about, I think, 2 shows ago, when you look at what you still have with this cornerback stable and Nico Reed and Eric Rodgers, who was a preseason darling of last season before the injury started, they're pretty good at corner right now. But you can always reload at this position. You can never have enough good corners in this in your team.
Now, real quick, before we get to kind of the next position group, I wanted to ask you, like, where do you land on we were talking a little bit earlier about the Tyler Linderbaum kind of rumors and the rumor about the Chargers. We'll talk about this more when we get to the offensive line guys. But where do you fall on that in terms of, like, if you can get McGovern, for example, for, I'm making up a number, let's just say 17, 16, 15 a year, or Linderbaum for 22, 23. Not
if that $5 or $6 million is a difference between me signing Tyler Linderbaum or keeping Odafe Owe, I'm keeping Odafe Owe.
Like McGovern and Owe?
That's the route I would go. Yes. I don't deny that they're going to pursue Linderbaum. It sounds like there's enough smoke that there actually is fire, but they have to remind themselves that Baltimore is not letting him go willingly. Jesse Minter, being the head coach of that team, understands fully what it means to have a good center, considering the fact that he spent the last 2 years watching terrible center play in front of Justin Herbert. So he knows how valuable it is. But also, if he doesn't return to Baltimore, you're about to get in a bidding war. And again, not to say that
that's the issue.
You shouldn't be doing it. I said my piece on this in the last show. I'm not against bringing in Tyler Linderbaum. But if it means that you can keep one of your other star internal free agents to build the team around, there's no question what I'm doing first. I know that may sound ridiculous in terms of the biggest priority of protecting Justin Herbert. But to Dan's point, you look at the top 3 centers that are in free agency, whether it's Linderbaum, McGovern, Mays, they're all 26, 27, 28 years old. They're in a great spot as far as their age and seeing this next contract, whatever that's going to look like for them. And then shit, Dan, did you see Logan Jones out there in field drills today? Have you seen the tape of Sam Hecht out of Kansas State? If it's between Connor McGovern and Tyler Linderbaum or losing Odafe Owe, I know which route I'm going there. And that's not even a hard question for me to answer.
And I get it. Folks in the chat, if Harbaugh is serious about the tip of the spear, he'll sign Linderbaum McGovern. Okay. Again, he's been saying tip of the spear for the last 2 years. And you saw what he put out there. Now, some of that you can't really control with the injuries and all that, but some of that they chose to run back. They chose to not give Andre James a chance. They chose to not draft anybody in the interior other than, was it Branson Taylor that they ended up letting go anyways? So it's some of that's they're doing, right? You can't foresee both of your, anchor tackles going out. It's hard. You're on tackle 6 and 7 and 8 last year. But that group has not signed a Linderbaum or McGovern the last 2 years in free agency or the draft. So let's just pump the brakes a bit. On top of that, I think I don't want to say forgetting, but one of the benefits of having a Jesse Minter was he made guys who maybe weren't drafted as high as you might like play way above their rank. We saw quite the opposite on the offensive side, especially on the offensive line.
Yep.
With a Mike McDaniel here now, in theory, you saw what he did with Miami. His offensive style and his prowess should be able to get you a little bit higher results than maybe what you draft. Now, do they need to go out and get an elite center? Like, yes, it would be wonderful to have. But like, let's just not get too carried away with how historically bad last year was and needing to fix that. Like, everyone agrees you have to fix what you saw last year. You cannot have the worst center by a long shot. And hell, worst entry offensive line generally, or on the right side. You can't have that. You can't have horrible. You can't have historically bad. If you give them Joe Alt, Rashawn Slater, let's say Zion Johnson comes back, which even that's going to be a bit of a haul now because that's going to be a lot of money. But if you give them like above average with those guys, that is a great offensive line. And think about the money you could spend elsewhere. I'm not saying they should have a shitty offensive line. I'm just saying, like, there is somewhere in between here that I think you can play smart, right? So, I don't know. The Linderbaum thing sounds nice, but how that affects the rest of your roster construction, that's the part, like, it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you.
Dan, I wanted to just note this question real quick. I want to save it for when we get to day 4 for offensive line, because I think it's going to be relevant. So we'll ask the question now. We'll circle back around with it in just a second. Or the previous question.
It was not a guard.
No, it was would you trade out of 22 if Big Veg out of Penn State was not there or was not available? Okay. I want to just reference that, but we'll circle back around to it when we hit day 4 of the offensive lineman.
Okay, I'm trying to find that. Do you see where it is? If you do, bring it up. Oh, nope, that's not it. I don't see it.
I had just caught it prior to the chat moving up. So if I missed it, I apologize. But I will answer that question.
Okay.
Dan, before we move on to day 3, Jason Kilgore, we're talking about safeties here. Jason Kilgore out of South Carolina, Genesis Smith, other 2 safeties that had absolutely tremendous testing days for both of them. It kind of goes into the same bucket as like corner to say, because I remember Thiemann, who out of Oregon, I can't remember who mocked him to the Chargers at 22. And everybody was saying it's like, what the hell? Safety at 22 for the Chargers? Like, what are we doing? And then it was Chris Harry, I believe, on day 2 after it had just wrapped up that said, I know it's not a priority for the team, but I've just got these visions in my head of Derwin James playing next to this kid and just watching them run roughshod in the defensive backfield. Do I think it's going to happen? No. But day 2 was a fun day. Day 2 arguably may have been the best day of the combine.
Okay, real quick. Let's flip it, okay? Let's skip to day 4 today. Then we'll go back to day 3. Because I think day 4, there's a lot of questions about interior offensive line. There's a lot of topics there. And then we can get to the glamorous positions we all love, running backs and wide receivers.
Yes.
Offensive line got their shot today. And Jake, I forget the quote exactly, but the quote you gave about the guy with the lettuce was absolutely perfect.
Oh, it's the dodgeball quote. Everybody was waiting for Jennings Dunker to run his 40 specifically so that they could show that slow motion video of his hair. And to be perfectly honest, I thought when you looked at his first run to his second run, I think he kept his head down on purpose on his first run specifically for that reason. So that the only thing you saw on the camera was just the red flying everywhere. And yes, you take the Pepper Brooks commentary from Dodgeball. It's got to be the hair, Cotton. It's beautiful, feathered and lethal.
Oh, it's my favorite. So guard and center is probably who most people were looking for in terms of position groups that they would probably spend a high draft pick on, whether that's day 1 or day 2, possibly early day 3 if you want to get one. Who were some of the guys that stood out to you from a guard or guard center perspective that either maybe let me preface this at 22. Okay, let's just stay there. Let's just stay at 22 for a second. who are the options that you would realistically sleep well at night knowing they drafted?
There's only one offensive guard. I'll tell you that.
The Penn State kid, right?
Yes. It's if he's not there, I would give serious consideration to Caleb Banks. TJ Parker would definitely get some notoriety in that spot as well. I think one way or another, it's going to be a trench player, whether it's offense or defense. It's going to be in the interior trenches of either one of those spots. If it comes down to it,
so at 22, offensive lineman.
Yeah.
It's just the Penn State kid.
There's one, which right now looks like a pipe dream and probably a dream that'll never happen of him getting to 22. So if that's the case,
it's okay. Yeah.
Would I trade out of 22 if he's not on the board? And the answer 100% is yes.
For
100%.
Center? For a guard?
For a guard. You're probably not spending a first-round pick on a center. No, sir. I think that they'll end up addressing that in free agency, and I think that you'll supplant the rest of the moves that you need to do on the offensive line through the draft. So if it's me, I am definitely trading out if Vega is not there, and maybe a couple of other players. But if Vega is not there, most likely, let's get some of that draft capital that you lost in the Odafe trade back, because when you look at the rest of the guards, Dan, specifically ones that can fit this system for what McDaniel wants to do. You look at Chase Pasantis, who I thought had a great testing day today, Emmanuel Pregnon. You asked me today, maybe it's recency bias. Pasantis is probably my OG2. You ask me tomorrow, I could say it's Pregnon again. Those two are literally neck and neck for the guard position as far as the next options that are available for you.
And that's the tough part is looking at, and this is where, there's a fine line, right? You can talk out of both sides of your mouth real easily. But looking at the landscape, right? Like, I don't necessarily know if there are that many great guards in free agency this year. I would say center, you can get a couple that are really, really good. But if you're telling me that there is one guard in round one this year and maybe a couple more in round two, that makes me think you're either going to spend big in free agency or you're going to reach in the draft. Because a lot of other teams need those same positions. And if you look at that for center, if your team is desperate for a starting caliber, above average year one center, that ain't happening round one. Period. Unless you crazy reach. So then you have day two or free agency. So if you're going to spend, I feel like the center would be the position you probably would spend more on than the guard. But do you want, and the answer to this might be yes. But Jake, let me ask you, or let me ask folks in the chat. Is center the position that this staff should reset the market on and reach for, in my opinion? Linderbaum, right? Is he the one that is worth resetting the market for? I don't know. It is a position of need for sure. But typically, $23 million a year for a center? That just sounds like bad business. I'm sorry. I've seen some numbers about like what the average center makes in comparison to that, and it's like a third of that. So it's risky business either way, right? I don't want them to have a shitty offensive line. I just don't want them to have to crazily overspend and get over their skis. So to me, like, I'm far more in the shoes of give me above average to good, very good, and let the elite on the outside take the rest. You have the quarterback, you have the playmakers, you have the tackles. There's a lot of mouths to feed here, man. It's a lot of mouths. So it's not day one for center. It's not day one for guard, unless it's the one.
Well, hang on a second. It's if you're telling me that Venga is not there at 22, I'm trading back. But
if it's a guard.
I didn't say I was trading out of the first round. If you're telling me that you're trading back at, like, say 28, and because I'm telling you, offensive linemen made themselves some money today. They elevated their draft stock for sure. Kalen Rutledge is another one out of Georgia Tech that I really like, that I didn't think that he was going to move that well, considering the fact that he's just, you look at what he did, and he just looks like he is just a straight ass kicker, mauler, more that fits more of that gap scheme. But I thought that he moved so well today that you could plug and play him there, and he's going to go in this zone scheme. And I think he's still going to be able to dominate people. I just love the attitude that he plays with. It just looks so good. And it seems like it would be someone, if we're talking about tip of the spear for Jim Harbaugh, that you love to say, yes, that's a guy that I would want on this team.
Because right now I'm looking at, like, just, again, like, keep me honest here. I haven't gotten as in depth as I would like, but I'm just looking at a PFF big board real quick. And the best center that I see on their big board is 68th. Sam Hecht out of Kansas State. Then Connor Liu, 77 out of top 100. And Jake Slaughter, 80. So you're telling me the top center is an early round 3 grade. That's not great, Bob. And if you go over to the guards, just for context, the top one is ranked 25th. So that's one in the first round. And then there are 2, Emmanuel Pregnon and Chase, can't pronounce his last name, out of A&M. Those are the only 2, 41-58. The next one is Kalen Rutledge at 96. Late day 2 at best.
We'll see if those rankings hold. We'll see if those rankings hold. I think that Logan Jones elevated himself big time today, considering his performance on the field. He was the top, to me, he was the top offensive lineman that was out there, not just in the 40s, but he looked great in positional drills. You can make an argument that he had one of the best days of any offensive lineman. So I think that his stock is going to rise as well. So I'm not so sure as far as I get the PFF rankings, and I'm
saying big picture, right? Like,
yes,
the general number is pretty small to choose from. I don't know. I love this.
But overall, Dan, go ahead.
Let's just say this comment's pretty good. Got to sharpen this butter knife, interior line, man.
Yes, and that's actually a good transition, because again, I still think that you're putting a premium at the trenches this year, whether it's free agency or whether it's the draft, and which way that they decide to build this team up from a roster construction standpoint, from a cap standpoint, they're going to go heavy for the trenches this year. You're not going to see Joe Ortiz make the same mistake twice, in my opinion. You're not going to kick the can down the field.
But what does that mean? Like, but I think that's what I keep going back to. Like, when we say they're not going to make that same mistake. Well,
let's see. Bradley Bozeman already kind of made the decision for you. So know you have to reload there. We already know that Mekhi Becton is not coming back. And whether or not Zion Johnson is going to command a $20 million plus on the free agent market for a contract, are you telling me that you would give that to him? You may very well be replacing all 3 of your interior offensive linemen in a single season.
The more, and again, like, this is just me at the very top level, because again, preface, I did not get a chance to watch much of the combine. I'm relying on Jake and you folks in the chat and recaps that I'm seeing, because I haven't had time. But just off what I am seeing, the pool of very good offensive linemen to start in year one as a rookie at guard and center seems relatively small in comparison to years prior. I've seen years prior where there were like 5, 6, 7, 8 centers that could be starting year one. Same with guards. And that's just not the case this year. They're not deep at those positions. So then if that's the case, you look to free agency. So it sounds like the defensive line group is pretty deep, both edge and interior. Agreed? It sounds like receiver is very deep. That's almost every year at this point. Running backs if they want it to be. Linebacker, deep. So maybe this is the year where it's like, you know what, to hell with it. You know, you are what the market tells you. The cap went up. They got up over 300 million now. Like, they are very quick to have almost 100 million to spend. Maybe they do just say, F it. Sign Zion, sign Linderbaum, or sign McGovern. Maybe go all three. Like, it just seems like the path to success there seems pretty narrow if you're putting all your eggs in the draft to fix it. So that kind of makes you feel a little uneasy, but also puts a lot of pressure on day 1 and 2 of free agency.
Free agency frenzy is going to be fun, isn't it?
Man,
nobody's going to be stressed out at all.
I'm telling you, if Linderbaum makes it there, that will. I would guarantee. I'll bet you a 6-pack right now, folks in the chat. Jake, I'll bet you a 6-pack right now that he'll get north of 22. Are you taking that bet?
No, because I think that you're right.
North of 23.
Yes. It's not just from what you may think of what the market is.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's the fact that he's going to be so coveted that teams are going to try to outbid for him.
Yes.
So, yes, I think that's absolutely a possibility. And whether or not you agree with paying Linderbaum that much, obviously, is your opinion. If you think that that's good for Justin Herbert's sake, you can make an argument for that, and I won't disagree with you. But if you think it's also not good from a roster construction standpoint, you're also right. I wouldn't do that given the other areas of need that you need to address.
But here's the one side. I'm gonna talk on the other side of my mouth here for a second, because I see, to your point, I could absolutely see the rationale for both sides. Like, imagine you're Jim Harbaugh, or you're Joe Ortiz, or you're Justin Herbert, right? What the F do we got to do to get this kid protected? I don't care how much it costs at this point. We are doing it. I am not going through what we just went through these past 2 seasons due to injury or roster construction or bad luck or the effing weather. We're not doing it. And so if that means they spend $60 million on the offensive line, sure, fine. At least your quarterback is protected. If it means your defensive line sucks, you lose the edge, you lose the corner, okay, I guess. At least your quarterback is protected. Like, that stance, it's hard to argue otherwise, right? Like, you see what happens over there in Kansas City. Like, if he is protected, Mahomes doesn't need that many crazy playmakers to make his team look good. If he just has an offensive line and a defense, he's pretty set. So I get it. But to Alan's point, Alan believes Linderbaum isn't worth $22 million. So that's where I'm getting at. This whole topic is, are you willing to spend money on someone who is not worth that contract? Now, you are what you're worth the time, but you're knowingly overspending. If you're going into it accepting that as kind of a luxury tax or as like an insurance tax for all the bullshit you did the last couple of years, okay, it's a sunk cost. But you have to accept that. And it's just, from a business perspective, it is hard to look at a sunk cost and then double down on it.
2 questions here from Anana that I wanted to answer. Number one, this one, because he decided to put it in the chat 3 times. He was trying to make a point that for the Logan Jones versus Dominique Orange, Big Citrus, made Logan look bad. 4.91 cannot offset the performance. Trust me, I'm not letting a 4.90 40 from Logan Jones be like, oh, the new thing as far as grading him and moving him off boards. I've actually been a Logan Jones fan throughout this season. And I've really liked what I've seen. I think he's a people mover in the run game. Again, this is just my opinion from what I've seen from Logan Jones. I'm definitely not allowing a 40 time to say, oh yes, this is the best setter that's in this class, and this is now going to be the moving stick as it relates to the assessment here of players. But I get what he's saying, because I appreciate Hanan, because I know he watches film, and I know he'll will chime in on some of the prospects that I talk about. So I do appreciate his opinion. But yes, I just want to make it known, I'm not allowing the performance today of Logan Jones to make some big type of statement to say that. I thought he looked great. I'm not saying he's a turd either, because he's not. But he had a great day today. And I thought he looked tremendous. I thought he helped his draft stock. And I think that if you were to plug him in the Chargers system, I think that he would be a great starting center for you. The other one that I wanted to answer real quickly from Hanan was talking about Spencer Fano out of Utah, who, again, had another tremendous day, but everybody's all of a sudden looking to kick him in from tackle to the interior because the arms came in much shorter. I immediately messaged Steve Hagelin from Guilty as Charged when I was watching him go through the drills, and I was saying, man, Fano is just killing it in the drills right now. And even Steven was saying, it's like, yeah, but I was surprised about that arm length. I didn't expect him to come in that short. So they were running. There's been talk about him kicking into guard, or I think that he put the T-Rex arms. Well, that was Ruben Bain who got the big T-Rex arms label. But I think that they even kept Fano on the drill on the field today to do some center drills. I still think that he had as good enough of a day to where he can be an outlier. Look at Rashawn Slater, for crying out loud. There's always those guys that, regardless of what the arm length is, they can be the outlier. Is it a foolproof formula that always works? Absolutely not. But I think with Fano, I think between 1 and 22, considering what you saw from him in college and what he's athletically capable of doing, I think you're going to have another team selected by the time 22 hits around. I don't think that his arm length is going to have him drop that far.
So we spent a lot of time here on the interior offensive line for a good reason, right? I think that's like the biggest concern. Real quick, let's get to day 3. Let's go through some of the guys that you liked at running back and wide receiver, and then we'll do some rapid fire before we get out of here. I got about 10 minutes-ish left here. Jake, day 3. We may finally see some of those burners come to the Los Angeles Chargers because Mike McDaniel is the offensive coordinator now. There's a couple names that I saw that were sleepers that I was starting to look at from a wide receiver perspective, not combine, but just looking at some guys while I was waiting. Who are some of the guys that stood out to you or to the crew at running back and wide receiver?
I mean, for running back, it was the Jeremiah Love, Jadarian Price show for good reason, because they came in and dominated like they should have. And it actually wasn't as big as far as like going through the 40s. There wasn't a lot of running backs that actually, you didn't have everybody participating in it. So it was actually kind of a limited group, which was a little bit disappointing in that. I would have actually loved to have seen Jamari Taylor out of Virginia run, who is actually one of my day 3 options at running back. That, not necessarily to say that he's comparable to Devon Achane, but the measurements are similar. How Virginia utilized him in both the passing game and the running game, you could definitely see that for Mike McDaniel to say, like, oh yeah, like, give me some of that. I know that I could use him in a good type of a way. And he's got home run capability when he's able to break out an open field. Dan, I did not get a chance to watch Mike Washington before the combine, but you could damn sure bet that I'm going to be going back and watching it now. What a phenomenal day for him at 223, running a 4.33 40. Crazy. There's been a lot of talk as far as
what for the Chargers. Would that be a day 2
selection? You could very well see it after a performance like that. End of day 2, I could see that happening.
He probably was a day 2 going into the combine.
I don't know. I don't actually know where his stock specifically was, but I think he probably solidified it for day 2. And again, we're talking about, Love being the consensus running back to be taken in the first round. You're probably not going to see any more than that taken before the first round ends. So usually for running backs, day 2 is like the sweet spot for that, for when the remainder of the big names come off the board.
I'm excited to go through this position and why.
I think a lot of coaches saw that and to say like, oh yeah, to have a guy that's that size come out with that speed. And again, he had, as far as everything, again, I haven't watched it yet, but from what I looked up, he had some really good production at Arkansas. So I think a lot of head coaches saw that to say like, oh yeah, we could work with this.
I mean, he's ranked 160th on PFF Big Board. Again, not the Bible. I'm just saying, like, generally speaking, like that's mid day 3. Had over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6.4 yards per attempt. Like, that's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. Yeah, I'd take that. I didn't see this, but I was just curious. There's a couple guys that I had on my radar from a wide receiver perspective that I was looking like deep down, like way lower. I don't even know if they were in the combine, to be honest. I'm gonna give you a couple names here. You tell me if these names showed up. Okay. Where's my list here? I got a list here somewhere. Hold, please.
This is of wide receivers going, because I know the limited amount of film that you have looked at has been of the wide receiver class.
Yes. Okay, so I'm gonna give out a couple names. You tell me if any of these names stuck out at the combine. Caleb Douglas, Texas Tech.
I'm going through my sheet here.
I'm giving folks.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. I'm still on the running back tab. Let me switch.
I'm giving some folks some early
Chase
names
Roberts or Caleb Roberts.
Caleb Douglas.
I'm sorry. I didn't even have the correct name in the first place of what Dan was talking about. Caleb Douglas was there, ran a 4.39.
Okay. Jeff Caldwell at Cincinnati.
Yes, he had a fantastic day. Fantastic day.
I didn't watch a lick.
4.31 and a 42 vert. There was again 6.5 to 6.16. He had a great day.
Okay, again, I watched 0 of the wide receivers. Here, another name, Kendrick Law out of Kentucky. How did he do? Was he there?
He was there. Sorry, just going down the list. It's not like I have everybody memorized.
These are like day 3 guys.
Yeah,
I'm like
5'11", 203, 4.45 in the 40, and a 42-inch vert.
And she's shorter, right?
5'11".
42-inch vert.
42-inch vert.
Jeez. Okay, a couple other ones. Bryce Lance, who I did hear went crazy in the combine.
The brother of Trey Lance. I thought he had a solid day.
Kevin Coleman out of Missouri. Was he there?
Yes, this was the one you were messaging me about. 5'10", 179, so a little bit on the lighter side. 4.49 and a 38.5-inch vert for him.
4.49. Dang, I thought he was faster than that. And then Brendan Thompson was I got to around 100, and then all of a sudden I was like, holy shit, this guy is fast.
Brendan Thompson ain't lasting that far. I guarantee you that. Everybody was waiting for him to run his 40, and to nobody's surprise, Brendan Thompson is fast. Skylar Bell is
your guy.
Is one of my favorites for this draft class. Honestly, when I put on the film of him, and this is a total admission, I put on film of Skylar Bell. So this would have been, if this was going to date, so this would have been Friday. Technically, it would have been Saturday morning at 1 a.m. I was still up watching his film specifically. And the only reason I remember that is because after about 6 games in, I was just so physically exhausted that I caught myself like on my notepad, like falling asleep. I'm like, okay, it's time. I just need to go to bed. But he was the last wide receiver that I watched prior to the drills running yesterday. I didn't expect him to come out and start having a 41-inch vert for a guy who's only 6 foot and 192 and doing some of the broad invert jumps that he did. Major explosion. Ended up running a 4.4, Dan. You talk about a guy who if Mike McDaniel has him, you can get creative with this guy because UConn found a lot of different ways to utilize him in the passing game. They were running him on screens. They were running him on reverses. But when he gets out into open field, he can break away from defenders. And if I remember correctly, he had 13 contested catches on the season. So even for being a smaller type of frame wide receiver, he's not afraid to go up and get it. And missed tackles, I can't remember. I think it was 18, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong on that, but it was a high number for what he was able to create. But I really just liked him as a receiving option. If you were looking for that, if we're all looking for that element of speed that we know that Mike McDaniel wants to bring to this offense, I think that'd be a great option. I did not expect some of those numbers from him. I really liked his film. I like it even better now after what I saw.
I apologize if you're getting some audio issues, if that's on my side. I don't know if it's on Jake's side. It sounds fine on my end, but you guys keep us honest. And again, I'm very excited to finally get into some of the film and kind of watching these guys. This is the latest I've ever gone starting for the NFL draft since doing the show. But I promise you, I'm going to catch up. So bear with me. But I will put out some gems because I feel like I have a pretty good track record on running backs and wide receivers and tight ends. Those are like the three that I've felt pretty good about. So give me some time. Jake, anything else? We went through all the position groups. Was there anybody at the running back group, I guess? We didn't really talk much about the running back group, but was there anybody there that you thought was like a good dagger burner type?
I mean, Jamari Taylor would have been that. Again, he didn't end up running the 40, which I was really bummed about because I wanted to see that happen. Roman Hemley is another running back that I like. He didn't end up running, but he did go through some of the position drills and he looked really, really good. Again, I'll probably say the least group that I have gotten a chance to watch thus far is running backs and wide receivers. So like Dan, I'm still behind on it. So I hadn't gotten a chance to put on a lot for these guys. I know that there are some other people in the chat that were talking about players that they had liked. But I think you definitely have some options considering some of the 40 times that some of these guys were able to put out, Dan. Damon Claiborne, if you're looking for that 5'10", 188, he ran a 4.37. I saw someone talk about him in the chat. He was another player who had a great day.
He was an A-chan type, yeah.
I haven't gotten a chance to actually watch any of his film yet out of Wake Forest. Looking for anybody else who was – I mean, basically it was Mike Washington, Dan, and it was Damon Claiborne who ran the sub 4.4s. And again, like I said, not everybody ended up participating in the 40s, which was kind of a disappointment from a running back group. But the limited amount of ones that we did get a chance to see was pretty good.
But also so damn grateful that they got a Martin Hampton last year because that dude is just going to feast in this offense. Like, feast. Like, I picked him up for – I forget how much I paid for him in my auction draft last year, but, like, I might keep him with the tax just to keep him on my team another year. Like, another 10% plus $5, whatever it is in our league. Like, F it. I might do it anyways. We went a little long here, but worth it. This is where it starts getting fun. Jake said we're about a little over a week until free agency frenzy starts. A lot of smoke's going to start brewing now, though. This is when you start to hear the rumors pick up. This is where the fun stuff starts. Jake and I, we will be on top of it as we move forward. Again, I apologize for my lack of involvement so far. It has been a rough couple of weeks on the personal side with just all of it. All is good, but it's just been insane. So no excuse. I could be better.
Time to get in the film room, Wolkenstein.
Well, now that I can breathe out of my nose and look out of my eyes, yes, I can do it. I can do it. Jake, anything else before we jump on out of here?
I want to go back to Dan, what Dan was saying earlier on in the episode, just talking about in general as it relates to the position groups for the Chargers and the biggest ones of need, this being a good problem for them to have coming up in this draft. And I'll circle back around to offensive linemen because much like last year, you've got and we kind of touched on it with Spencer Fano, you've got so many guys now that are being looked at to kick inside, whether it's because of their footwork, whether it's because of their measurables, whatever it may be. It's just going to add that much more to that pool of players. Jennings Dunker being one of them, for considering what he played in college, and possibly just be looking at as a better fit. I've seen him mocked to the Chargers plenty of times by a lot of fans' mock drafts that are out there. But it's a good problem to have for the Chargers at each one of their positions. Again, this draft may not be top heavy with blue chip players, but it is deep, and it's time to start getting excited. I know we got to go through free agency first. Dan and I are going to have a special guest here pretty soon as it relates to getting in the thick of things for the NFL draft. And that's going to be a lot of fun. And we are going to have plenty of things related to the NFL draft as far as other interviews coming up as well that we're excited to be talking about as we get ever so closer to April 23rd. But thank you so much, guys, for joining on a Sunday night of all things. Definitely just kind of wanted to projectile vomit after this combine because I was so excited. Yes, because I just needed to start talking about the draft. I needed to vomit this information out. I wanted to talk about it. I wanted to get your guys' opinion about it as well. And for whether it's this show or any one of our shows, you know, that Dan and I appreciate everyone that tunes into our live shows. It's our favorite shows to do for everyone. So we really appreciate everyone that joined tonight. But Dan and I will be back later on this week. As we will start previewing more of free agent frenzy as it comes up, and obviously the NFL draft. But thank you guys so much for joining.
Jake, real quick, I got to say, even the Raiders fans, at this point, this is probably a Broncos fan, but we got Broncos fans. We appreciate you too. 15-2 projection for next year. Chargers 2-15. Y'all are amazing. As Peter says, okay, Clifton, put the crack pipe down or keep it. You do you. To each their own. Appreciate all of you. You guys are the best. Hit that like and subscribe if you can. Helps out a ton. Get some sleep. Hug your loved ones. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening, and we'll talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed. Have a great evening, everybody. So long.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.